And we're here with another episode of Conversations and Connections, the official podcast of the Family Crisis Center of East Texas. I'm Stuart, the Prevention Coordinator with the agency. Glad you could join us today. We're in the month of June, and June, if you do not know, is Pride Month, and it's a day to recognize the LGBTQ community and to recognize it and recognize the folks in the community and to recognize issues and things like that group faces. And so what I wanted to do, I wanted to ask one of our counselors, and I have Shelby Brown with me today. She is a counselor here at the Family Crisis Center. Thank you for being such a good sport, Shelby.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here, Stuart.
Been after Shelby for a while to be on the podcast. And so Shelby, you're a licensed professional counselor. Mm-hmm. And I guess, first of all, before we kind of dive into the topic of Pride Month, and really what I wanted to talk about is the issues that the LGBTQ community faces when it comes to relationship violence, domestic violence, and things like that, because I think a lot of times, and I'm probably just as guilty of it, you really don't think about that particular community and how interpersonal violence really affects that community. Before we get into that, tell me just a little bit about what do you do here at the Family Crisis Center? You're a counselor, but what is, I guess, a day-to-day life for you here at the Family Crisis Center?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm a licensed professional counselor associate, so I'm still in training. Well, at least supervision getting my license in all those hours. So mainly day-to-day, I see clients every day. So I see survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault. I see from ages 6 and up. And I provide therapy. So I do a specific kind of therapy. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically means how you think affects how you feel, affects how you behave. Yeah, so a lot of times I work with these survivors on their trauma and kind of unraveling the trauma and helping them to kind of untangle it so they can move on with their lives and kind of leave it in the past. And
in previous conversations I've had with you, you've also said that you work a lot with kids, right?
I do, yeah. So right now my main client base is kids. Because it's summer, all the moms are bringing them. But yeah, mainly I work, majority of my clients right now are kids.
And people don't realize, when they say, oh, kids, well, you're the women's shelter, you're the Family Crisis Center. I think it's important to know that in a domestic violence situation, although let's say the female partner or spouse may be the victim or the survivor, it affects the children in that household as well, even there they might not be directly abused.
Right, absolutely. They usually see things, hear things, even when parents or guardians try to hide it. Kids can always pick up on energy. They can pick up if there's something weird, there's something off with my mom or my dad or other. And they can always, they're like sponges. They can hear, learn, anything they experience, they can take it inside and keep it there. All
right. Well, I want to talk, first of all, I was trying to kind of think about how to approach this topic because, again, I think a lot of people, the LGBTQ community, a lot of people, for whatever reason, it just doesn't really come to mind. I think a lot of times we'll think of minorities, we'll think of racial minorities, and maybe the economically disadvantaged and particular statistics on how that affects that group of people, but specifically the LGBTQ population. And in preparing for this episode, and I think you kind of did the same, I was trying to pull up some statistics. And what I was telling Shelby before we started recording is whenever I was trying to look up statistics specifically for the LGBTQ population, they're kind of hard to find.
Yeah, they're really hard to find.
And I don't know what the reason behind that. I don't know if there are just not a lot of studies done on how interpersonal violence and relationship violence affects the LGBT community. So there's just not a lot of info reported.
I mean, that's one of the reasons. Another reason is kind of like men survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. They don't report a lot.
Right.
There's a fear of institutions. There's a fear of being judged or outed.
Yes.
There's a fear that maybe the person I'm going to isn't educated
right.
on my community, and they're not going to know how to take care of me.
Yeah.
I don't feel safe.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of underreporting.
Well, and that's what we talk about in prevention work. Well, in your line of work too, just statistics when it comes to male survivors, period, whether they're a part of the gay community or not. Men are less likely to report anyway, probably, because of the embarrassment. And again, it goes back to my favorite topic, gender socialization.
Yes.
How, well, I'm a man, I should be able to I think even if you're a gay man, I think, and I think it's so important, hey, just because a man may be gay doesn't make them less masculine necessarily. Right. And they may still feel like they need to put up that masculine front and say, well, I can't report this. I'm a man. What are people going to think, right?
That toxic masculinity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So just briefly, and I don't know, you may want, and feel free, Shelby, to chime in on this.
Absolutely.
Just the information that I was able to pull up. And when I got my information from was a website called Women's Advocates. And white LGBTQ survivors and bisexual individuals were more likely to experience sexual violence than those who were not white. Black and African American LGBTQ individuals are more likely to experience physical violence than their peers. 43.8% of lesbian women and 61.1% of bisexual women have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner, as compared to 35% of heterosexual women, and 26% of gay men and 37.3% of bisexual men have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner, compared to 29% of heterosexual men. And I've heard of this before, that incidents like this of sexual assault and domestic violence may be, I don't know if I'm going to say unusually high, but higher than what people may realize in the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely. That's what I found researching some statistics, that it's equal to or more likely to happen in LGBTQ plus relationships.
Is there any theories or ideas why that may be? At first, when you first think of that, I would think, okay, well, it's someone that's not an LGBTQ person targeting people in that community. But these statistics that I have, these are from intimate partners that this is happening. So,
yeah, there could be a number of reasons. The information I generally found is some of it's a lot of internalized homophobia. So there's a lot of pain and suffering in the LGBTQ plus community, from being stigmatized, being judged by society as a whole. So sometimes because of those effects, there's a lot of alcoholism, a lot of drug use, a lot of anger. There's just a lot of suffering in the community. And so a lot of times they take it out on someone they love the most. And then there's that internalized homophobia, transphobia, of I'm not okay with myself and I'm not okay with you, and I'm going to take it out on you.
Yeah. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about some of that stuff here in a minute. Of course, my next question, I think we've already kind of touched on this. I was going to ask you, do you feel that members of the LGBT community are not recognized when we think or even acknowledge the issue of domestic violence and sexual assault? And again, this may be more of an opinion than fact, but why do you think that is? I mean, do you think it's just, why does that community may not come to, and I'll acknowledge, like I said, sometimes I don't really think a lot about specifically the LGBTQ community, and
So I actually have some stuff on like barriers, so why they won't seek services or report. So I was talking kind of about societal beliefs. There's kind of a belief that it just doesn't happen in the LGBTQ community, that domestic violence and sexual assault isn't really happening in that community. There's also, I mentioned earlier, lack of training in organizations to specifically handle LGBTQ plus community issues. So there's a lack of trust and faith in those organizations of, okay, well, this is happening to me, but if I go, how am I going to be treated?
Right.
Am I going to be treated with respect? Are they going to believe me? Or are they going to come down for me for my lifestyle? There's a lot of fear there.
Yeah. Oh, you're good.
I hit
you're
the
good.
mic.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And then a lot of it is outing yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
I may not be out to my family and my community.
Right.
So if I go and report this, there's a chance I could be outed.
Sure.
And another big one I found was that it's really just a low level of confidence that any kind of organization or authority or law enforcement will be receptive and helpful.
Yeah.
There's just a big stigma there. Yeah.
And of course, I was going to ask you about, unique, and again, I think we kind of touched on this, but, unique tactics. We talk about things that intimate partners do in heterosexual relationships to control their partner and the whole power and control thing and things like that. But unique things amongst the LGBTQ community, what can happen with that? You were talking about being outed.
Right.
For example.
Is a huge one. Another one is isolation. So because I may have come out to my family, I may have been rejected by my family, I only have a small sense of community right now. Like I might just have my partner and maybe a friend or two. So if I lose that, I have nobody. So there's a fear of, if you leave me, you'll have nobody anyways. You've already lost everyone else. There's also another thing, a big issue I think that doesn't get talked about in the LGBTQ community is children. So if you have a partner, you may not be a biological parent. So there's a real threat of, if you leave me, I'm going to take our children away from you because you really don't have any you don't have a leg to stand on in court.
Right.
So that's another tactic. I mentioned kind of small community. So within the LGBTQ community, we are a relatively small community, right? We have kind of had to develop little pockets of safe places within society. So there's a fear that if I leave
You love hitting that microphone.
I'm talking with my hand and I'm smacking this microphone.
But that's good. You're into it. That's awesome.
But if I leave my partner, all of the friends that we've made together, my community, maybe I go to a certain gay club, maybe I go to a certain friend's house to be with all of my friends, and I could lose all of my community. Okay. That's a big one as well.
Right. How much of a challenge does and we talked about this beforehand, and you kind of said we, as in the community. You're a member of the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
How much? And I've asked members of this community before in another podcast. It was probably about a year ago when I was talking with the LGBTQ caucus there at SFA. But how much of a challenge does the LGBTQ community face in rural East Texas? It's a challenge doing the job that I do in prevention work sometimes, dealing with the toxic masculinity and the very strong gender stereotypes that you find in rural, and not just rural East Texas, and I don't mean to pick on East Texas, but in rural communities, that does seem to be a stronger thing that happens. But what kind of a challenge is it to be a member of the LGBTQ community in East Texas?
Yeah, so it's hard.
And of course, we're audio only. Shelby just took a very deep breath and okay, how are we going to...
I'm going to be honest, it's pretty difficult. I mean, there's just not a lot of, if we just look at Nacogdoches, can you think of any, well, you're really in Lufkin, but can you think of any specific place that you're oh, that's an LGBTQ place?
No.
No. Yeah,
I
because
wouldn't know.
there's not. There's
Right.
not, like I said, we kind of had to create, we have to create
Yeah.
our spaces. So there's not a lot. If we
Yeah.
don't create them, there's really, and so here, especially kind of in the South in the Bible Belt, there are a lot of kind of expectations and beliefs about our community.
Yeah. Right.
And so there can be judgment, bias, prejudice. If you walk out, depending on how you're dressed, how you identify, how you present yourself to the world, you could face discrimination at any time.
Right. Yeah. Does that ever, and you don't have to speak specifically for yourself, but you may know of other people in the community. Is it so frustrating where people think, well, you know what, I'm just going to move from East Texas and move to a bigger metropolitan area where I will be more accepted?
Yeah, I mean, that it is frustrating, but on the flip side, you get it, right? Because it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's like it's something you think about every day of your life.
Well, and you brought up a good point. I guess let's say, if you're LGBTQ and have known that, you look, this is where I live, this is what I am. If I come out, I got to know this is what I'm going to be facing.
Right.
I got to know this is how it is if I want to stay here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
guess.
There's a fear of I could lose my family, my friends, my community, my job,
Yeah.
everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, kind of on that note, also, are there any organizations? I think this is good. Anybody who may be listening, who may be a part of this community, and they don't know where they can go to maybe find a safe place or a safe space. Are there any organizations here in East Texas for members of the community?
Yes. So actually, this weekend, Piney Woods Pride is putting on.
Now,
Yeah.
just a rule of podcasting.
Okay,
Just
okay.
this is going to be coming out afterwards.
Oh, okay. My bad.
No, but that's fine. But this is
Yeah.
in June, so I mean
Okay.
it's fine to say on the 18th.
Yeah.
We're recording this on Friday, June the 17th.
Right.
On Saturday the 18th, there will be a Pride event
right.
in downtown Nacogdoches where we'll have a table, or excuse me, we had a table there, I guess I should say. But no, I think there's good. And I think a lot of times that Pride on the Square event at Nacogdoches, people, wow, Nacogdoches is going to have a Pride event.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was pretty shocked, pretty wild to me, but I'm excited about it. But I brought it up because Piney Woods Pride Coalition, they're putting it on. And so they're always a good resource here, especially in NAC. You mentioned at the school, there's like Pride NAC, the caucus. I found a couple more, and they're kind of in Tyler.
Yeah.
So in Tyler, we have the East Texas GCA, so Gay Straight Alliance Coalition, and then we have the Tyler Area Gays, and we have Tyler P Flag. So those are good, but once again, they're in Tyler.
Yeah, and that's and not just LGBTQ stuff, but there's been a lot of things that I'm interested in that I said, well, I want to see if there's any like-minded people in East Texas. Well, if they are, they're all in Tyler or Longview.
Yeah,
it's hard to find.
It's hard to find
things.
Yeah, and I will say there are a couple private practices in the area that specialize in LGBTQ care.
Okay.
So I will mention that if anyone's looking for that.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
What can the community do? And not just the LGBTQ community, but just the East Texas community in general. What can the community do to become better allies?
Yeah, so one thing is just being like a true ally of supporting, right? Listening, supporting your LGBTQ community members, neighbors, friends, whoever, and being an advocate. So speaking up in areas, advocating for, safe spaces for LGBTQ plus members, organizations, all of the above. I would say if you're able to, a good one I like to say it for people is do your homework, right? Like a lot of times people think, well, I'll just go ask somebody who's in the community, which is fine, but normally it's better if you do your own research, right? Just kind of, if you have questions, look it up, because it's not really people's job to educate other people about that stuff. But, especially like me, I'm always here if you have questions. But just doing homework research, really advocating, if you can, provide resources on social media, anything like that would be great.
And I'm glad you brought that up about doing your own homework and because one of my fears, and I think I've even caught myself doing this. Now, I'm a straight white male.
Right.
But and you know me, Shelby, and I think people who listen to the podcast, my coworkers and my friends know this. I'm an advocate and an ally for any group that is underserved or marginalized, be it racially or your orientation or anything. I am there and I'm going to have your back. But what I'm so afraid of is, hey, okay, I just did this. Yeah. I just did the same thing. Hey, look at me. I'm an ally. I'm an ally. Look, like,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like, hey, look at me. I'm an ally. And I think sometimes people say, well, that's great. Well, do something.
Yeah.
How am I trying? It's hard for me to try to express what I'm trying to say. I don't want to say bragging about it, but calling attention to it more so than just doing actions.
Yeah, kind of be like, I'm so good. I'm an ally.
Yeah, maybe so.
Me.
Maybe that's what I'm trying to say,
Okay.
instead of just doing actions on it.
Yeah, so what I would say is it's always good to uplift voices, right? So, like, for instance, you have a platform. You have a podcast, you do prevention training.
Yeah.
So this is a good opportunity where you're talking to someone in the LGBTQ community to bring awareness about domestic violence and sexual assault. So things like that, uplifting voices, especially if you have a platform or social media, any kind of following where you can advocate and let somebody kind of take it over so that their voice can be heard.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we wrap things up, I always like just to kind of not 20 questions, but just kind of talk to whoever we have as a guest. I dig your accent.
Okay.
And where are you? You're not from East Texas.
No,
Where are you from?
I am originally from Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, from New Albany, Mississippi.
Say that again?
New Albany, Mississippi.
Oh, that sounds so cool. I love that. So what attracted you to doing this type of work when you were young? Was little Shelby interested in doing this type of thing? Or what attracted you to doing counseling and things like that?
Yeah, so actually little Shelby, I think I came on here as an intern. And I talked to you how little Shelby wanted to be a professional soccer player. That was the goal. But as I got older, I always just have talked to people. I've always been curious about kind of why do people do what we do? Yeah. How do we think? How do we tick? Yeah. And it was something that I grew more interested in. And then as I got older, so I came out to my parents and they were not accepting. They took me to a lot of therapists. Some of them were great. Some of them were not.
How, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you came out to
I was
your parents?
like 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, which helped me because I was an adult, so I could make choices, right? I could say, okay, I'm not going to do this.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you specifically come out at that age for that reason?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Because I did have incidents with my parents where they tried to get the police involved, and I was able to say, I'm an adult. Can't do that. Yeah. But I had some great therapists and some places where therapy was a safe space for me, where I could figure out what was going on with me and talk to someone and just feel listened to. So I knew it was something I was interested in as a younger kind of kid. But then after that kind of happened, I was like, okay, yeah, this is something I really want to do and be able to offer to other people.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. Well, is there any parting wisdom or advice you want to say before we wrap things up?
Okay, so I wanted to go back really quick because I missed kind of a part I wanted to talk about.
Oh, hey, no, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
So you talked about tactics of abusers in the LGBT community, and I mentioned some good things, but I also wanted to mention one thing they can do is they can say, like, women can't abuse other women. Men can't abuse other men. Or they might attack identity. So, like, for instance, for trans people, they might say, well, you're not a real woman. You're not a real man. They might use their dead name or refer to them as it. They might use harmful language. But I really wanted to bring that up because sometimes that is a specific part of this community that people face with domestic violence that doesn't really get talked about, is that their identity can be attacked by their own partner.
I'm going to have to ask you something because you mentioned a dead name. What?
Right. Okay, so a dead name for a trans person is like the name they're given at birth.
Okay.
So let's say someone is born typically or with male genitals, and they're taught and they're raised as a man, but as they get older they realize that's not how they identify and that's not who they are, so they transition into a female. Well, their dead name would be the name that they were given.
Okay.
And so when they transition, they might choose another name.
Gotcha. So their original name that they were given that may be on their birth certificate or whatever is going to be their dead name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I learned something.
Yeah. See, and that's why I was like, oh, I really want to go back and address that.
No, that's awesome because I've never I've heard of trans people doing that as far like changing their name. But I didn't know their previous name. That's what they called it.
It's
I didn't know that's what it was
referred to as a dead name, and it's something that you don't. You would never call them.
Okay.
Yeah, but they can face that from their own partner.
Right.
Okay. As part of the abuse. So I just wanted to hit that real fast.
Oh no, that's cool. All right, Shelby, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Shelby
Stuart.
Brown, one of our counselors at our Nacogdoches office for the Family Crisis Center. And if you feel like you need any of our services, if you feel like you're in a relationship that's abusive, or if you've have survived any type of relationship violence, interpersonal violence, and you need our help, we do have a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week hotline. That number is 1-800-828-7233. That's 1-800-828-7233. Also, be sure to I can never say that. Be sure to subscribe to Conversations and Connections. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and pretty much any podcast service that you choose to partake in. You can look us up there and always be the voice, if not for you, for someone else.